Good afternoon and welcome to Lauderdale Lead, and thank you, Rob, for hosting us today. We're glad you're here, and Happy New Year. I know it's 3 weeks into the new year, but we're still working on new things, I hope. And so one of the things that's at your table as well is there's a postcard on a summit, a leadership summit that's happening at Florida Atlantic University in March. It's an incredible opportunity. You can see it there. There'll be more information out at the tables afterwards as well, and the team is here who puts that on, so you can look at that as well, the World Leadership Summit. So we're excited about that. Well, as we begin, let me ask you a question. I do this every year with the people on my team. I do it with my family, with my high school daughter as well. And I ask everyone, and we work on this, I ask them, what is your word for the year? It's not in the notes yet. We'll get to the notes in a minute. But what is your word for the year? Do you have a word that describes where you want to be? So 11 and a half months from now, if it's Christmas week and I go, how did 2018 go? Do you have somewhere you want to go? Do you have some movement, some verb that can help you identify that you've done it? Not all your goals, not all your strategies, not all your objectives, but a word. So my daughter's word, don't tell her I'm going to tell you this, 17 years old, is compassion. Her friends, one is hope and the other is trust. My wife's is stretch. I have another friend who's raise. I have another friend who's enlarge. Words that cause movement. And I would encourage you to think about a word for the year. What would be a word that would describe all the things that you're doing, and put it someplace on the opening of your computer, on your refrigerator, on the visor, wherever it is, on your opening of your phone, on the face page of your phone, whatever it is, to remind you every single day of what you want to accomplish in your life this year. Just kind of a big picture word. I do this all the time. I know we're 3 weeks into it, so you're 3 weeks behind, but that's okay. There's never a bad time to start planning and looking ahead. So do that, and you'll enjoy that. And maybe I'll ask you next month what your word is, and you can tell me what it is and how you're doing with it. Here at Lauderdale Lead. Now, just so you know, for those of you who are new, and let's ask, who's here for the first time? Raise your hand. Congratulations. Welcome. I was born in Fort Lauderdale. I went to high school in Pompano, but I live in Boca, so I'm kind of in all three areas. So I see Fort Lauderdale as my home. If you grew up in a place like Boca Raton, 30, 40 years ago, you had to go to Fort Lauderdale to do anything. So Fort Lauderdale is like a second home to me. But the purpose of Lauderdale Lead and Boca Lead, and we're starting Miami Lead in February, the purpose is a belief that businessmen and women, you all, can make a difference in this community. You can make a difference in the community of your workplace, the community of your nonprofits, if you're coaches and you're working with nonprofit organizations, your civic clubs, and also in society in general. And I think we sometimes as business people take a pass on the responsibility that we have and the opportunities that we have to work in our areas. And I think Fort Lauderdale can be a better place to work, to play, to live, and to worship than any other place in the world if we as business people do that. And I consider myself a business person, though I'm in a nonprofit. I run a business as well as a church and all. Now, what do we do at Lauderdale Lead? We do one of four things every month, and I'd like to just remind us, because we're still all new, we talk about leadership, and we do it in one of four ways, and I'll tell you which way we're doing it today. We do leadership of ourselves, or leadership of yourself. That's one way, and that's the way we're going to talk about today, beginning of the year. We do leadership of one other person, like a coaching or a mentoring situation. We do leadership of teams, and we do leaderships of divisions or organizations. And so every month I do one of those. This month I'm doing leadership of yourself. So pull out that sheet right there, and you see a big diagram there. It's a fairly typical 4-quadrant thing, and you see that, and a lot of businesses use this, and I'm going to use this to begin to discuss motivation and self-motivation. I have this belief that if you want to lead other people, you have to lead yourself. So as we look at it, you see 2 grids here. You see a vertical and a horizontal. The vertical grid and heading up is passion. And so passion is that thing that motivates you, gives you enthusiasm, moves you forward, the passion to do your work. And again, as I talk today, we're talking in the workplace, although this applies at home, in your nonprofits, as coaches, in your little leagues, also everywhere you work, but this is really in the workplace. Passion, and then the bottom is progress. And I know it doesn't show here, it's kind of off the slide, but it's progress. You can write that word down. Progress is the area of working hard, progressing. So there's passion, is there progress. Now, if you're down here at the apex of these 2 lines, that means you have neither. You have no passion, you have no desire to progress in your work. So hopefully no one in this room is here, but you are somewhere on this. So we're going to begin to look at it. So let's look at the first one, and I have them rhyming, so just so we kind of remember them. The first one is drift. If you have low passion and low progress, you are drifting. You're distracted. You neither have passion or progress. Let me give you 4 thoughts in this area. How is it that we can be so drifting? Number 1 is we are unaware of where we are. We are unaware of where we are. Now, you obviously go to work. You're looking forward to the paycheck tomorrow or next Friday, but you're really unaware of your abilities, of what you're doing, where you're going as a group. And I know some of you are with your colleagues at your table, so don't look around right now, but there may be some people at your table who are drifting. And they may be looking at you saying you're drifting. So be careful not to look around right now. Look down at your sheets, okay? So nobody is kind of doing the eye contact. So you were unaware. Some people are just unaware of where they are. They're drifting. Number 2 is they're distracted at work. Now, there is a time to be distracted. Some of you have a family situation. Some of you have a financial reversal. Some of you have parents who are aging out and dying. There is times when we are distracted, but you and I have met people that are constantly distracted. 100% of the day, they're distracted. They're supposed to be doing this, and they're distracted immediately in doing that. You might say they're ADD. I would just say they're distracted. And be careful with that. A third one is overwhelmed. Some people drift in business because they're overwhelmed. And let me just say this right now. If you are totally overwhelmed at your work and you have been doing it for a while, you may need to look to do something else. Everybody in this room, except for those great high school students who helped us check in and greeted us, they're fantastic, from Westminster Academy. Thank you, young adults, for being here. Excluding them, they may not know where they're going yet. But the rest of us who are in their late 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, we should know at least the direction we're heading in. And we cannot be so overwhelmed because maybe you're just in the wrong business. And I know I did this talk to my staff. I have about 38 people in my staff. One lady came to me and said, I need to move on. I didn't want her to move on, but she said, I'm totally overwhelmed at what I do and I can never catch up. So she actually quit. So some people, and we're going to get to the positive, this is kind of the negative, but if you're so overwhelmed every night and you're so distracted and you're so fearful of your job, there is a place for you in this world. Go find it. And the last one is this: deceived. Any psychologist will tell you this, that the worst deceit is self-deceit. I can deceive you, you can deceive me fairly well, but it will come out in the end. You'll discover that maybe I'm not as good a worker as I say, or I can't quite do the things that I say. That'll come out. But you can deceive yourself your entire life and it'll never come out. Self-deceit is the worst. You need to go to yourself and understand, am I deceiving myself? And this is true all across life. This is why people do wrong things and don't think they're doing wrong things. There's a whole subject on that. But people drift because they're totally deceived into thinking they're doing something meaningful when in reality they aren't. They think they are working well, in reality they aren't. And that's where you, as colleagues, bosses, co-workers, can help people not just point out their deficiencies, but to help them move past their own ineffectiveness or deceit or being overwhelmed and help them. Now that's drifting. We're done with drifting. Let's get a little more positive here. As we move up the line here, the vertical line of passion, the next one is lift. Lift. These are the people that have passion without progress. These are the people who are the cheerleaders of your group. They can motivate people to anything, but they're not quite sure what they're motivating people to do. Have you ever met those kind of people? They are just excited about everything. Do you have any of these kind of people? But they have no focus. They don't know where they're heading, but they're excited. Again, now you're starting to look around. I love it. So point that person out in your team. A lot of enthusiasm. Now this is good, but you cannot have this by itself. Let me give you an example. In my former life, before I was a pastor, I was a commercial realtor, managed buildings, sold buildings, etc. So I had a building I managed, and there was a bagel shop in the building. And one day I was in the bagel shop, and the guy did not run a good bagel shop. Now, I didn't grow up with bagels. I grew up with English muffins, so I'm late to the world of bagels. So we're there talking. It was about 11 o'clock, and no one was in the store, which tells you that he's not doing too good if a bagel shop is empty at 11 a.m. So I'm doing some coaching with him. I figured I'm his landlord, but I need to coach him a little bit, kind of help him out here. And we're starting to talk, and we're in a very serious conversation about how to help his business, and all of a sudden I hear the toaster oven ding. Ding. His bagel is ready. Just toasting a personal bagel for himself. He goes, I have to stop. I go, you do not have to stop. We can eat the bagel later. He goes, no, you can't. And I go, what do you mean? He goes, you don't know bagels, do you? I go, no, I grew up with English muffins. He goes, there is only so many seconds after it has been toasted that you can put the schmear on it where it works together and it becomes an incredible experience. I go get your bagel. He puts his smear all over this thing, and then he hands me half of it. And can I say something? It's transformed my breakfast eating. There is truly only so many seconds between the time that the toaster oven dings and you can apply the schmear or the butter or the honey or whatever you put on your bagel. He is exactly right. He had the enthusiasm of bagels, but had no idea how to sell the bagels. Do you see that? Fantastic. He's off the charts in this and had none of this. His business no longer exists. And it's not because he doesn't know bagels, bagel shop, and he doesn't love bagels, and he's not excited about bagels, but all he had was enthusiasm for bagels and could care less, even in my coaching of him, very small amount, to go, there's a business behind this selling of bagels and potato chips here. You got to do more. And he never got it because he was off the charts. And some of you are off the charts enthusiastic, which is great, but there is a part of progress, a part of working, a part of connecting, a part of processes that makes your business work. So, some of you are there. Don't mark yet where you are on this, but before today's out, I want you to mark where you are on this grid. Now, the third grid is shift. This is progress or work or processes, whatever word works in your context, without passion. This is a hard-working person. For 16 years, I got out of college. The first 16 years of my business life, I worked for my father. There's good and bad for working for your father. Third day at work, he was a commercial realtor. His father was a commercial realtor. His father was a commercial realtor. We have it in our blood. I went into commercial real estate. I had it from back at the turn of the century in Miami. We love commercial real estate. This is what my dad said. Third day, I'm 21 years old, just graduated college with my bachelor's, hadn't got my master's yet, and there I am. He goes, we're going to half days. I thought, wow, work for your dad, half days, 5 hours. This is pretty cool. He said 12 hours. And he was serious. I worked 12 hours, 6 days a week for 16 years. My father, who's a great man, he's 87 years old right now and goes to work every single day at 87, 6 days a week. Hard work was his value. Hard work was great. I mean, we worked hard. If it was daylight, I worked for 16 straight years. Hard work was important, but let me tell you, hard work is not everything. And that's hard for me to say that as a borderline workaholic and a Protestant who loves the Protestant work ethic. We all love to work, right? But understand there needs to be a passion attached to the hard work. I do Boca Lead, Lauderdale Lead. We have a world version of this, and we go to 40 countries. We have 120 nonprofits, 125 that we work with. I was in Vietnam one time, and in Saigon, which is now called Ho Chi Minh City. Saigon has more motorcycles than any other city in the world. I've never seen anything like it. Some cities run on buses, some on trains, some on subways. This city runs on buses. So if 3 of you want to take a taxi, you get on 3 backs of 3 motorcycles and go. It's just amazing. But there's a problem. There's not a lot of traffic lights, so how do you cross the street when thousands of motorcycles are going across the street simultaneously? I had no clue. So I was there at a major intersection, not even an intersection, but a crossing to get across the street. My buddy, who was our interpreter, an American, born in Vietnam, gets it. I go, how do we cross the street? He goes, do you see that lady over there? And there was a little old lady pushing a grocery cart, one of those small ones that elderly people push, not the big Publix one, but a little one. He goes, watch her cross the street. I go, she can cross this street? And I can't. So she got off the step and just started walking straight across the street slowly. And then she got up on the curb of the median, walked across the curb, got off the curb, and did 3 more lanes. There had to be 1,000 motorcycles that crossed past her. None of them hit her. She got to the other end. He goes, how do you think she did it? He said, I have no idea. I have no idea. He said, she took a cadence, she put her head down, and she never stopped. And everybody knew what she was going to do. And they could avoid her and go around her. He said, if she had stopped in the middle, she would have gotten hit. If she had changed her cadence, she would have got hit. If anything different had happened, he said, put your head down. I said, I can't do this. I can't do this. So there was another old lady that came up, and this is a true story. Another old lady came up over here. You know, and the Vietnamese are about 100 pounds and about 4'11". I'm a little bigger and a little wider than that. I went up to the lady who didn't speak English. I said, can I help you push your cart across? And she didn't know what I was saying, but she kind of let me. And we pushed her cart across the street. I went her cadence and never got hit. Why? Because I just put my head down and walked across the street. A lot of people say, just put your head down and work. Can I tell you, put your head up and work. We put our heads down, we don't see people, we don't see trends, we don't see the future, we don't see our community, we only look out for ourselves. All I was concerned about was me getting across that street. I could care about anyone else. Sometimes hard work is just not enough. And I'm a hard worker. And I believe in hard work, but hard work alone is not the answer. All of you who are hard workers, your bosses are going something like this. I really like their hard work, but I wish they had more to give to this company. They're all saying that. They're all saying, boy, I wish they had some passion. Have you ever had a school teacher in the past that had been school teaching for 5, 6, 8, 10, 20 years, and you realized they were just a first-year school teacher doing it for the 20th time? They just put their head down and repeat themselves. You go, there's got to be more to this. And then you've had a school teacher who had passion, who instilled something in you. Yes, made you write the papers. Yes, made you read the long passages, do the homework, but instilled in you something greater than yourself. We've seen that in school teaching. It's the same in business. You can be a good worker. Yes, we want you to. It's better than being a drifter. But let me tell you, there is more to just good old-fashioned hard work. There is a passion that needs to come that will separate you from your competitor. And I hope you believe that. So let's look at where the answer is up here. Just to keep the little rhyme going, gift. That's where passion and progress come together, and I use the word sweet spot. Sweet spot. Now, what is a sweet spot? A sweet spot is when your talents, your abilities, and your gifts align and match with your passion. This is when you go, this is what I've been gifted by God, my talents, my skills, my schooling, my ability to invest in money, whatever your giftings are. And this is my passion. And when those two come together, new things happen. You can create things. Do you know that Rob Pazienza and I stood in this room without a person in this room except for Andrew and one or two others? We just stood right here and said, we see this room filled with people. We saw you here. You weren't here. I didn't even know who you were. We saw this room filled with people. Why? Because we had a passion for it, and we had some ability to do it and put it together. You look at your business and go, we can do it, but add passion and the sweet spot. And let me just say again, if you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, or 60s, and you are not doing in your sweet spot, and I'm sorry if your boss is in front of you or sitting next to you, go find somewhere else to work. Life is way too short to do something you don't like. It's just way too short. Can I tell you? I do another talk on time, but you're going to work 100,000 hours. Boy, is that discouraging. 100,000 hours at work in your life. If you live to be ripe old age of 70, 100,000 hours, you might as well do something you like. That's my view. You want to go to work every day and work 10 hours at something you don't like, you go for it. But let me tell you, you'll be way down in the bottom of this grid. Sweet spot is when your talents, abilities, and gifts align and match your passion. Now, how do you begin to head there? Let's take the grid back here first, Becky. Come back to the grid. Where are you on this? Just think about where are you. And you don't have to put it down because your friend is next to you, your coworker, your boss, or your people, but put it in your mind. Where are you on this? And I would suggest that it would be best to be in this, and you don't have to work your way around these ways. You can go straight from drifting to gift, shift to gift, lift to gift. You can move into it in it. And so how do you do that? So let me give you 3 thoughts on this. Where are you heading this year? Number 1, become aware of your current location on that grid. Your current direction. Where are you? Be honest. This is self-assessing. Don't deceive yourself. Don't be unaware. Where are you? You know what? If you're the greatest cheerleader in the world and you have no focus, put it down. Where are you? If you have a lot of focus, no passion, put it. If you have neither, put it. If you're in your sweet spot, maybe you need to be honing in your sweet spot a little better and doing more things. Where are you? That's number 1. Become aware of your current situation. Number 2, and this is huge, decide where you want to go. And you go, well, everybody wants to be in their sweet spot. Can I just be honest? Everybody does not want to be in their sweet spot. There is an obligation if you are in your sweet spot. If you are in your sweet spot, you have an obligation to do something bigger than yourself. If you're just working to get a paycheck next Friday afternoon, you really have no obligation except to do what somebody else wants you to do. If you're only there to cheerlead something, you have no obligations except to cheerlead for someone else. But if you're in your sweet spot, if you're using your God-given gifts, talents, skills, and money to do something bigger than yourself, and you have a passion for it, you have an obligation there. And some people don't want that obligation. You have to make a decision that you do. And it is a personal decision. I cannot make it for you. Your spouse cannot make it for you. Your parents, kids, nieces, your investors, your stockholders, your boss, they cannot make it for you. You have to ultimately say, I want to improve. You can go to them for help. That's a beautiful thing. But you cannot go to them for the motivation behind it. Doesn't work. And then finally, number 3, pretty simple here. Start working toward it. And that's where you ask friends, coaches, mentors, a big brother, big sister in the business. And can I just say, maybe go to a competitor and ask them. I have a big belief that we as competitors to each other can do a lot with each other. I am tired of people saying, this is my region, I'm not going to help. We're in for bigger, if someone comes to you and they're from another company, a competitor, I'm not saying give away the family secrets or anything, but when you help them, you've helped yourself. I believe that. I'm a kind of a win-win guy. I believe that all ships rise when the tide rises. I really believe that, especially in the community. When something's happening over here and you guys are doing a great thing, this bank over here benefits from it. If nothing else, that people begin to trust bankers because there's trustworthy bankers. It benefits everyone. So let me give you an example. I have a friend who shared this story with me. 1815, what's that, 203 years ago? 1815. There were 2 men that got mad at each other, fighting each other. It was in Dublin, Ireland. They hated each other. They went out, and back then dueling was allowed. You remember you had 10 steps and shoot each other? I don't quite get that. But they did that, and one man killed the other man. The man who was dead had a wife and child, young child, a boy, young child. Her name was Jane. She was left in poverty. Back then, there was no other family, no social network underneath them. She was in poverty. She is 1814, about a year later in 1815, she decided to kill herself. My friend is telling us this story a couple years ago. Jane decided to kill herself. She walks out of Dublin to one of those stone bridges with the stone railings into a ravine where there's a brook way down where 2 little hills come down. She's about to throw herself off with her sleeping child in her arms. And suddenly she hears someone singing and whistling. She looks down the ravine, and over here to her left is a guy farming. Now, I'm a city guy, so I can't tell you how he was farming, but a mule or a horse and all the leather and the plow. And she watched him go up and down those rocky knolls and to do an incredible job. He had passion and he had a hard work ethic, and she just stood there mesmerized for probably an hour or 2 while the baby was sleeping, and she was getting up her, motivation to jump over the railing. And then she saw if this guy could be so happy doing this awful job, moving stones and everything, there must be more to life. She walked off the bridge and went back to the town. A week later, she got involved with a community that helped her, changed her life. She got married again, and she made a decision to do this. And I know we're not in a Christian setting, even though it's a church, but I'm just going to say this. She chose to pray for her children, her grandchildren, all the way down for 6 generations. So her grandchildren's grandchildren. Great-grandchildren, actually, 6 generations. She prayed for that. She had no money. They were poor. And she said, I'm just going to pray for the people, my children who come after me. She dies. 6th generation later is my buddy. It's him. He's telling the story. 2015, he tells me this story. 200 years later, 6 generations later, he is the guy that his great-great-great-great-grandmother prayed for. Now, I would have said, what a great lady this is. And he told me what a great man that farmer was, who had passion and a work ethic that translated to a discouraged lady about to commit suicide not to do it. And he didn't even know he was doing it. You see, he had an influence on this lady that he never knew. We think it's all about power and money. It's not. It's about influence. The influence you can have if you have passion and progress and you're in your sweet spot and you love what you do, it just flows over into people. Now what's amazing is my friend is an author. He has sold hundreds of thousands of books. Incredible author. Probably millions now. And he credits a poor farmer for his whole existence. Isn't that amazing? That farmer's long dead, 200 years dead, and yet he credits that man for what his life is about. And I think it's not just about you. Yes, we're talking about you and leadership, but it is not just about you. The influence you have when you can show people a strong work ethic with passion and do great things here in Fort Lauderdale and Hollywood and in Pompano and all the places around, it will change our community. Do you really believe that? So, let me end with a soccer ball. Okay, so I travel all over the world. If you travel outside the United States, the international language of the world is football. It is not American football, it is soccer. So what I used to do is every time I went, I would take about 5 of these deflated with a little pump, and when I'd be in an area, whether it was urban or village, it didn't matter. They don't need goals, they don't need grass, they don't even need shoes. They will do it dressed up, they'll do it in their shorts, they'll do it anywhere. You pump it up, you throw it out, and you will get kids, youth, and adults all coming together to play football or soccer. That's not true. Those of you who come from other countries, it's an amazing thing. So what I used to do is do that. I'd pump it up, I'd have it in my little duffel bag, throw it out, and then I'm out, and all of a sudden we went from 2 of us to 50 of us. And when we're playing, I'd play soccer. Well, I aged out of playing soccer with kids. I'd be in Africa. After about 45, I said, if I blow my knee out here, this is like ridiculous. So what I would do is pump the ball, throw it out, and all of it, and then talk to them. Well, that's fun. One day I did it, and I was holding the soccer ball, and then I looked at it not as a ball, but a metaphor, and I said, what is my soccer ball? See, for me, soccer is no longer something I can kick around with the grandchildren, but I can't play soccer anymore. What is my soccer ball? I looked, I said, sports is not my soccer ball anymore. And I started thinking, what is my soccer ball? And I realized I could influence people like this soccer ball influenced kids to come to a common place. I would do it with basketball. I did it in India with cricket one time. I did it in Cuba with baseballs. But usually it's a soccer ball. I throw it out. I said, I have a soccer ball. My soccer ball is what I'm doing right now. I love to influence people. And people come up to me and go, wow, it's great what you do. I go, no, it's not. Maybe this is my sweet spot. This is not necessarily your sweet spot, but every one of you has a soccer ball that when you put it out in front of people, you can influence them. So I have a envelope in front of everybody. Someone open that envelope. On every table there's an envelope. Open the envelope and pass it out. Every one of you gets a soccer ball today, okay? So, let me ask you, what is your soccer ball? That is the title of this talk that's at the top of that page that I didn't ask. What is your soccer ball? And don't point to someone else because you know their soccer ball and what they can do to influence people, but what is it that you have passion and you have a desire to do and you have a work ethic to do, and it's your sweet spot. Figure it out, head towards it, do it, and I think we can change South Florida and make it a better place to live, work, play, and worship. Thank you.